Hello everyone, I am Altaf and I would like to introduce my team Vikram. This is Akash Jaiswal, this is Akshat Singhor, this is Neeti Sahu, this is Anirudh Negi, this is Alok Kumar Pandu, and we are here to discuss about the topic the lack of right understanding. Understanding the challenges of modern society begins with the lack of right understanding. Like social media addiction has reshaped communication and mental health, often leading to isolation despite of its promises and connections. Challenges like corruption, poverty, and economic inequalities continues the cycle of disparity and injustice. Suicide, a consequence of unaddressed mental health issues, requires attention and systematic solutions. The erosion of ethical values contributes to the societal disarray further compounded by pressing challenges. Moreover, the growing prevalence of drugs abuse and its devastating consequences underscore the urgency of awareness and prevention efforts. Similarly, ensuring the safety of women and men is a paramount in fostering secure environment for all. These interconnected issues highlights the urgent need for collective understanding and actions as only through empathy, education and ethical responsibility can we address these challenges effectively. Now let's infer the topic one by one.
In a corporate setting, a manager noticed one of her employees consistently working for overtime to complete his task. Rather than appreciating his dedication or addressing the heavy workload, she assigned him additional responsibility without even consulting him, assuming that his late hours indicated an ability to handle more tasks. She increased his workload. The employee, feeling overwhelmed, stayed silent, fearing that refusing the extra work might jeopardize his job security or reputation. Over time, the mounting pressure began affecting his health and productivity, resulting in mistakes. Despite noticing these errors, manager criticized him instead of understanding the underlying cause. This lack of empathy further demotivated him, and he eventually decided to resign. His departure left the team short-staffed, leading to delays and frustration among other employees. A lack of ethical values refers to a situation where individual or organization fail to apply moral principles such as honesty, integrity, and responsibility. This can happen when people prioritize personal and organizational gain over ethical concerns. In competitive or result-driven environment, the focus often shifts at achieving the goal at any cost, leading to exploitation and shortcuts. Personal benefits such as financial gain or power can overshadow ethical concerns, causing harm to others in the process. In this case, the manager's failure to value empathy and responsibility led to the employee's burnout and ultimately his resignation. Her inability to understand his struggles created an environment where pressure and criticism outweighed support and understanding. When leadership neglects ethical values, it fosters exploitation and favoritism, damaging employees, customers, and workplace atmosphere. The consequences of unethical actions can be immediate and long lasting. In the short term, there may be a loss of trust, legal issues, or public criticism. Over time, these actions can result in reputational damage, financial losses, and diminished credibility. In this case, the immediate consequence included the employee's resignation and disruption of overall team productivity. Long-term effect might include lower employee morale, lower turnover rates, and a tarnished company reputation. To address these issues, organizations must prioritize values like honesty, responsibility, and empathy. Implementing clear guidelines and offering regular training can help employees to understand the importance of ethical behavior. Transparency and accountability mechanisms should ensure actions align with these values. Open communication channels can address concerns early, preventing unethical practices from escalating. Fostering a culture of empathy where individuals consider the impact of their actions on others can help avoid many of these issues. Strong leadership is also crucial in shaping an ethical culture. Leaders must model ethical behavior, provide guidelines, and recognize employees' effort. By promoting a culture based on empathy, responsibility, and accountability, organizations can prevent unethical behavior from taking root. To prevent future problems, organizations must avoid prioritizing short term profits at the expense of ethical principles. Ignoring accountability, dismissing employee feedback, or avoiding difficult issues only perpetuates an unethical actions. Balancing ethical practices with desired goal is the key to foster a healthy and sustainable workplace.
What if I told you that the greatest threat to our safety isn't just out there, but in how we think? Every day we hear about incidents that shake out trust in the world. A woman harassed on her way, a man assaulted for no reason. What's our response? Fear, blame, and advice like be more careful or don't go out alone. But here is the truth: safety isn't about rules or precautions, it's about understanding why these things happen. And too often, it's lack of understanding between men and women that creates the real problems. Today, we are here to explore the role of understanding in creating a safer world for everyone. Safety is not just about locks, cameras, or alarms. It's about human behavior shaped by our perceptions and understanding of each other. Unfortunately, our society has normalized misconceptions that fuel fear and mistrust between genders. Safety concerns for women are often heightened due to fear of harassment, assault, or violence. Women are frequently advised don't go out late, don't dress provocatively, or carry pepper spray. The focus on restricting women instead of addressing problematic behaviors shows lack of understanding about their right to freedom and safety. The constant pressure to take precautions reinforces a mindset that it's up to women to protect themselves rather than recognizing that safety is a shared responsibility. Men face their own significant challenges related to safety and understanding. Societal expectation for men to always be strong and capable leads to lack of emotional safety. When men suppress their weakness, it can put them at risk in different ways. The stigma can make it difficult for men to seek help or admit they feel unsafe, whether that's due to physical threats or emotional abuse. The belief that men should always be the protector and never the ones in need of protection creates a cycle where their safety concerns are overlooked. This lack of right understanding creates barrier, emotional, psychological, and social, prevents real solutions from emerging. When women feel unsafe around men and men feel unfairly judged or unable to express liabilities, it erodes trust. This divide feeds fear, defensiveness, and often inaction. When safety is compromised, it doesn't just affect individuals, it affects families, communities, workplaces, and societies at large. And all because we fail to understand and address the root causes. So, how do we bridge this gap? It starts with reframing the conversation around safety. We need to teach children, both boys and girls, the importance of empathy, consent, and respect. These are life skills, not optional lessons. Men must be allowed to express liabilities without judgment, and women should not bear the sole responsibility for staying safe. Safety is a shared responsibility that involves both genders working together. We need to create spaces where men and women can openly discuss their experiences without fear of judgment. Conversations foster understanding, and understanding foster trust. Understanding must lead to action. Here is how we can all contribute. Men speak up when you witness inappropriate behavior. Women share your experience to raise awareness. Let's hold each other accountable with compassion. Workplaces, schools, and public spaces must prioritize safety, training, and awareness. Campaigns to build a culture of respect. Laws and policies should address the nuisance of both men's and women's safety. For example, we need stricter penalties for harassment and better support systems for male victims of violence. Safety isn't about men versus women, it's about humans understanding each other. When we replace fear with respect, judgment with empathy, and ignorance with education, we create a world where everyone, regardless of gender, feels safe to live, work, and dream. Let's not wait for another incident to remind us of the importance of safety. Let's act now together with understanding as our foundation. Because when we understand each other, safety stops being a privilege and becomes a right for all.
Suicide is the biggest mistake of a person's life and also their last. Suicide is not a solution to any problem, but is instead an escape from all the problems and responsibilities. But this escape comes with a cost, which is much more heavier than all the problems and responsibilities combined. It not only ends one's life, but also heavily impacts many other lives as well. Many a times, death by suicide of a closed one traumatizes a person for the rest of their life. Sometimes that person ends up making the same mistake themselves. A suicidal thought is like a curse, which, if not cured, will bring nothing but sorrow with it. According to statistics, there is approximately a 90% chance that a person who failed his first suicide attempt won't go for another attempt ever. This fact itself shows how much of a bad choice suicide is, and that all that a person having suicidal thoughts needs is just some understanding and a change of mind. A little care and attention is enough to prevent a suicidal attempt in most of the cases. But before we dive into how to protect someone from the suicidal thoughts, we first need to understand why such thoughts come into people's mind in the first place and how they are able to overcome a person's will to live. One of the main causes of suicidal thoughts is misunderstanding. Misunderstanding by loved ones, misunderstanding by society, and most importantly, misunderstanding of one's own self. Let us look at the main reasons which gives rise to suicidal thoughts in one's mind. Loneliness. In today's world, we are greatly connected with each other online. In the world, but in the actual world, we are instead getting separated. Loneliness is a major problem in today's world. Humans are a social creature who needs to socialize. The feeling of being lonely brings in depression, which keeps getting worse if not taken care of. Sometimes it gets so much worse that the person starts feeling disconnected from the world. This leads to suicidal thoughts, which with time can break a person's will to live, feeling of being left behind or separated. The main cause of this is misunderstanding. Misunderstanding others can lead to one feeling being separated from them. This brings in a feeling of loneliness, which can lead to suicidal thoughts. Failure. Failure in achieving your goal can sometimes lead to depression. It is important to comfort the person going through this phase and try to understand their feelings. Successive failures in achieving something in life can lead to losing interest in life. If the people around them fail to understand them and instead demotivate them, that person can start getting disconnected from the world and develop a feeling of self-hatred. This can again lead to thoughts of self-harm, including suicide. It is clear that the main cause of all these factors which leads to suicidal thoughts is misunderstanding. Thus, better understanding is a must to reduce suicide rate from this world and to prevent your loved ones from making this mistake. We should stay in touch with the ones close to us and ask out for the problems they are dealing with. This act alone can impact people having suicidal thoughts a lot, as it brings in a feeling of being important in their hearts. Care and attention is a necessity in everyone's life. We need to look out for people who may be suffering from depression. The signs of a person feeling depressed are them staying alone, not showing interest in talking with others, and showing a lack of interest in things they used to do earlier. We should pay attention to these people as they need our understanding more than anyone. We should try to understand their feelings and help them in whatever way possible. Suicidal thought is like a curse, which no one should get. And the main root of this is, in today's world, is misunderstanding.
Let's start with a story. A young man started using drugs and other harmful things when he was in his late teens. At first, he did it to fit with his friends and to escape the stress from school and personal problems. He thought it was just a way to have fun, feel relaxed, and forgot about things for a while. But he didn't know how dangerous and addictive these things could be. He didn't understand how bad it could get. Over time, he couldn't stop using them, even when he noticed his health getting worse. He started skipping meals, feeling tired all the time, and losing weight. His grades in the school dropped, and he withdrew from his families and friends because he felt ashamed and lonely. He spent all his money on these substances, which caused even more problems. He thought he could stop anytime, but he didn't realize how much the addiction was taking over his life. His lack of understanding kept him stuck in a harmful cycle that hurt his physical, mental, and emotional strength. Why don't people understand that drugs are dangerous? Many people don't understand why drugs are so harmful. Some people might think that people who use drugs are weak or irresponsible, but that's not true. Society doesn't always teach us about why people use drugs in the first place, like feeling sad, stressed, or having problems at home. School lessons about drugs often just say, don't do drugs, without explaining why people might start using them. Media and TV shows sometimes show drug use as a cool of fun, which can give people the wrong idea. People who haven't expressed addiction themselves might think it's easy to stop using drugs, but that's actually very hard. Drugs can change the brain and make it feel like you need them, even when you don't want to. There are also big problems in society like poverty, mental health care, and unfair treatment, and make it harder for some people to stay away from drugs. When people don't have enough support or are struggling with their lives, they might turn to drugs to feel better without realizing how dangerous it is. Sometimes people don't understand the deep effect drugs have on the brain. That's why they think people can just stop using them if they want. But it's not that simple. How can we help? We need to teach people more about why drugs are harmful. Schools should explain how drugs affect the brain, body, and mind instead of just saying don't do drugs. We need to teach people that addiction is a health problem, not a moral failing. People who are using drugs need help and support for judgment. Doctors, teachers, and even police officers should be trained to help people and are struggling with addiction. Instead of punishing people who are using drugs, we should focus on helping them recover. We should make sure everyone has access to help when they need it, like seeing a doctor or talking to someone when they feel sad or stressed. Communities can play an important role for providing safe homes, good jobs, and healthy activities. When people feel supported and have opportunities for a better life, they are less likely to turn to drugs. We also need to make sure that all people, no matter what their background are or where they live, have an access to good mental health care. If we all work together and show kindness and support, we can help people understand the dangers of drugs and help those who are using them to get better. This will make our society a safer, healthier place for everyone.
The link between poverty, corruption, and economic inequalities. Poverty, corruption, and economic inequality are deeply connected global challenges that hinders social and economic progress. They are not isolated issues, rather they form a cycle that reinforces disparities and prevents societies from achieving sustainable development. For example, Nigeria is one of the world's largest oil producers, yet 40% of its population lives below the poverty line. The mismanagement of oil revenues and corruption in the public administrations divert resources away from essential sectors like education, healthcare, and infrastructure. Similarly, in India, corruption in the public distribution system, which is intended to provide subsidized food and essentials to the poor, often results in significant leakage of funds. Resources meant for marginalized groups are exploited by intermediates, leaving the marginalized to suffer due to systemic failures. These examples are enough to illustrate how corruption amplifies poverty, extend economic inequalities. The cycle of poverty, corruption, and economic inequalities can create a complex web of challenges that impacts all the aspects of societies. Corruption depletes public resources which have been used to address poverty. When education system is inefficiently financed, children from low-income families are deprived of quality learning opportunities, limiting their potential to secure high-paying jobs. Economic inequalities worsen this cycle by concentrating wealth in the hands of few, leaving the majority with insufficient resources accessible to basic services. For example, in many developing countries, individuals often have to pay bribes to access basic facilities like water, electricity, and medical care. This normalization in corruption deepens the distrust in the institution and creates social resentment. Addressing these interconnected challenges required comprehensive approach focused in a systematic reforms. Social investment and international corporations, for example, countries like Estonia have implemented e-governance platform, which reduces opportunities for corruption by automating public services and making the transactions traceable. Second, addressing poverty directly is crucial to break the cycle. This can be achieved by investing in education, healthcare, and infrastructure. For example, Finland's focus on free and high quality. I repeat, for example, Finland's focus on free and high quality education, which has significantly reduced income inequality over the years, creating a more equitable society. Economic inequality must also be tackled through a progressive taxations and social welfare policies. Government should ensure that wealthier individuals and corporations contribute fairly to the nation's revenues, which can be redistributed to fund social programs. Global organizations like United Nations and World Bank must strengthen efforts to combat taxation problems, financial flaws, and money laundering, which can drain billions of dollars from the developing economies. Wealthy nations and multinational corporations have a moral responsibility to engage in free trade practices and pay their fair share of taxes in the countries where they operate. The international communities must also provide technical and financial support to help the developing nations and build institutional capacity to combat corruptions. Ultimately, addressing poverty, corruption, and economic inequality requires a collective efforts from government, civil society, and international organizations. By fostering transparency, investing in social infrastructure, and promoting inclusive economic policies, societies can break free from the cycle of disparity and create a more equitable and prosperous future. These efforts must be sustained and adapted to the unique challenges faced by each nation. Only through the collaborations and the commitment that we can achieve a world where opportunities and prosperity are accessible to all, regardless of socio-economic status.
The danger of social media addiction, a lack of right understanding. In today's world, we touch our phone around 2000 times per day. An average Indian spends around 7 hours daily on screen. This includes scrolling through social media, watching YouTube videos, or browsing Netflix. Many of us enjoy these activities for entertainment. This prolonged screen time takes a significant toll on our lives. Imagine a scenario where a room is dimly lit by the glow of screens. Three friends sit together on a couch, each deeply engrossed in their own device, a smartphone, tablet, and a laptop. Despite sitting right next to each other, no one is speaking or making eye contact. Occasionally, notifications light up the screen, illuminating their faces, but the room is filled with silence. Each one lost in their own digital world, disconnected from the reality around them. The most alarming impact is the addiction of social media. If you observe closely, you will see that when people are deprived of their phones, they often get restless, irritated, or stressed. This behavior clearly indicates that social media has become an addiction. And while we talk about various types of addiction, very few discuss how social media has shaped the way we think, behave, or live. The science behind social media addiction. Social media addiction works similarly to other behaviors, like those associated with cigarettes, alcohols, or drugs. While these substances are chemically different, the way they affect our brains follow a similar pattern. The pattern involves the dopamine system, which play a crucial role in motivation and pleasure. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter produced in our brain, which refers to the feel-good factor. It is the chemical for feeling of pleasure and reward. For example, when we anticipate something exciting, like receiving a gift, our dopamine rises in anticipation of that reward. The feeling of excitement is not due to the actual reward, but the anticipation of it. The more we anticipate and receive rewards, the higher of the dopamine release. In the case of social media, every notification, likes, or comments in your post can act as a reward. This creates a loop where your brain is conditioned to expect reward constantly. When you get a like or comment, dopamine is released, giving you a burst of happiness. But just like other addiction, the more you experience this, the more your brain requires to get the same satisfaction. The dopamine deficit state. Over time, the brain reward system becomes accustomed to receiving constant stimuli. This result is what's known as chronic dopamine deficit state. When this happens, it becomes increasingly difficult to experience pleasure from ordinary activities. What once seemed exciting and fulfilling no longer holds the same level of joy. For example, after receiving a few likes on your post, you might need a more like or more frequent engagement to feel the same level of satisfaction. This phenomena is linked to what psychologists call the hedonic treadmill. Essentially, no matter how many rewards you receive, the happiness you derive from this feeling. For instance, while clearing a big exam like JEE, the initial joy is overwhelming. But after some time, the excitement fades, and you need a new source of happiness. The same principle applies to social media. Like receiving likes or comments may feel great, but over time, it becomes less impactful, and you may crave even more addiction or validation to feel the same joy. Fuel of social media. There are two factors that fuels us media addiction. First is the ease of access. Social media platforms are designed to be easily accessible with just a swipe or a tap. When you open Facebook, Instagram or Twitter, the ease of access makes it easily tempting to check your notification repeatedly, and the second factor is speedy rewards. Social media gives you instant gratification. When you post something, likes and comments start rolling immediately. This platform are engineered to provide rapid feedbacks which keeps you engaged. The more notification you receive, the more dopamine is released, reinforcing the behavior of checking your phone frequently. The design of social media. Social media companies understand the psychology behind the action. They have intentionally designed their app to be more engaging and addictive. Features like infinite scrolling on Facebook and auto-playing videos on platforms like Instagram help their users constantly engage without ever having to search for content. Consequences of social media addiction. The consequences of social media addiction are profound. One of the most immediate effects is time wastage. Spending several hours each day on social media means they are losing precious time that could be spent on more productive activities like learning new skills, pursuing hobbies, or interacting with real-life friends and families. Moreover, social media addiction can lead to increased radicalization. Algorithms on this platform show you content that align with your interest and belief, creating an echo chamber. If you regularly engage with the right-wing or the left-wing post, the algorithm will continue to show you the similar content, reinforcing their existing opinion and isolating you from the alternative viewpoint. Another severe consequence is the increase in anxiety and depression, especially among teenagers. When people compare themselves to the edited or the filtered life present on the social media, they often feel inadequate or inferior. The constant exposure to others' curated life can make people anxious, particularly if their own post does not receive as many likes or comments. This cycle gradually leads to depression, and users feel the pressure to constantly prove the worth through vital validation. Now, what are the solutions to overcome social media addictions? While social media addictions are positively influenced, moderation is the key. So, how do you break free from the grip of social media addiction? First, reduce ease of access. One effective way to delete social media apps from your phone. This makes accessing social media more difficult and reduces the temptation to check it constantly. You can still use social media on a browser, but it's not as easy as opening an app with just a single tap. Second, turn off the notification. Notifications are designed to keep you hooked. By turning them off, you won't constantly interrupted by the desire to check your phone. This helps you to break the cycle, expecting rewards from every notification. Third, private browsing. If you feel your addiction is severe, consider using social media only in private browsing modes. This forces you to enter your password every time, making it more difficult to access and reduce impulsive usage. Fourth, mindful consumption. Be aware of time you spend on social media. Set specific limits for yourself and stick to them. The goal is not to completely eliminate social media, but to regain the control over how and when you use it. Social media addiction is a real and growing concern. but with conscious effort, it is possible to regain control. By understanding the mechanism behind it and taking practical steps to reduce its grip on our lives, we can create a healthier balance between online engagement and real life connection. The best way to predict the future is to create it. Start creating a better digital life for yourself today. Thank you.